Michael, we'll start with you. If the Supreme Court guts Obamacare in any way, what does that do for the president's chances in the election?
Well, I think the president's chances are low because of Obamacare. I remind you of Scott Brown in Massachusetts. I remind you of the Republican takeover of the House and the surge in popularity in the Tea Party. Americans do not want the government controlling their health care or other aspects of their lives. You know, if it passes, I think there'll be a visceral reaction, as there was in 2010, to this president and his overreach in health care. If it fails, I still think he's defeated. This is a terrible piece of legislation, and the polls show Americans don't want it. Outside his core base, which makes up about 25% of the electorate, he has no support for Obamacare.
Carl.
Well, the polls are showing that as people understand what's in Obamacare, they're liking it more, getting away from this massive disinformation campaign on the right. And the truth is, I think if the Supreme Court goes against precedent and case law and strikes this down for political reasons, it'll do more damage to the credibility of the court than to the president. Gonzalez versus Raich, Wickard versus Filburn is case law, and the Commerce Clause does apply here. We know it's going to turn on Anthony Kennedy and John Roberts, and if these 5 justices gut a constitutional law based on case law, the credibility of the court is at stake. President Obama is going to win this election with or without the Supreme Court's help.
We'll keep.
Carl, please don't cite case law anymore. It's terrible radio and bores me to tears.
Of course. You guys don't go into it because you don't want anything logical. You don't want any reasoning.
I think he was making up those names anyway, Michael. But
Wickard versus Filburn, 1942.
I was thinking Bakke versus Board of Education.
Gonzalez versus Raich, 2005, which Justice Scalia concurred in.
We're just giving Carl more unedited stuff for his own show, so let's move on. Question number 2. Carl, we'll keep it with you. The president tells Russia on a hot mic he'll have more flexibility after the election. Is that a big deal or not that he did that?
No, it's not a big deal. You know, first of all, of course, any president's going to have more flexibility after the election. I think the message here, whether it's on a hot mic or not, is that the Republican Congress has from day one tried to block anything and everything this president has proposed simply to get him out of office. That was Mitch McConnell's declaration on day one. This president has reset the nuclear policy of this country in a fine way, better than his predecessors, all the way back to Ronald Reagan. And I'll tell you what, the reaction of Mitt Romney to this, labeling Russia as our number one geopolitical ally, was a problem more for Mitt Romney than this will ever be for Obama.
Back to the right, Michael.
Well, he didn't call him our ally, he called him our enemy. But what's funny about that is Pravda coming out and supporting Barack Obama. That's about all you need to know. We have real problems with Russia around the world, as they have problems within that country. We have real problems in Iran. We have real problems in the Middle East, and those persist. And there is no doubt that that's the case. But the real question here is, this exposes Barack Obama for who he is. He says one thing to one crowd and something different to the other crowd. He denies, he obfuscates, and most of the time, the media doesn't cover it. But what you saw with this hot mic was Barack Obama, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Look, I'll do something over here that I won't tell the American people about. He's done that with Obamacare. He said he didn't want an individual mandate and trashed Hillary Clinton for it and then put it into his bill. He's a liar.
I meant to say Romney said our geopolitical foe, but for God's sake, Pravda, what are you going to have, Nikita Khrushchev on the show next week?
Let me take off my shoes.
This is not the Cold War.
This reminds me of the case of GERD versus acid reflux. You remember that one?
Right after Wickard versus Filburn, because the court was so upset by it.
All right, last question, guys. Carl, if you win the lottery and the $500 million, how do you personally spend the money to make America a better place?
Oh, God. If I won the lottery, first of all, I'd be so excited I would run into a straight bar and have a cold one. But beyond that, I would actually use that money to have seminars. I wouldn't force people to come to the seminars with a mandate, but I would offer this to Tea Partiers and other right-wingers to try to present how we're a better country as a we society, not a me society, and how the founders wanted, the Boston Commons, the Commons, they wanted a we society, not a me society. And I would use every every resource at my disposal with that money to try to get money out of politics. Reverse Citizens United.
So let me get this right. You'd spend it on seminars?
Yes. With cold ones.
Michael.
Well, it's kind of funny. He says he's against mandates. It's not a mandate. It's a personal responsibility. You got to stick to the terms here.
Yeah,
Carl.
and the Republicans came up with the personal responsibility mandate.
I am not a liberal. I am an American citizen, an individual. And I would say, Americans, here's your $500 million. Because what makes Carl happy doesn't make someone else happy. And the difference is you let people make decisions for themselves. That's the American way. Now, with my $500 million, I'd blow it the way I would want to, and I wouldn't let the liberals choose that for me. There you have it.
I guess that's a lot more guns bought.
Carl
Wolfson. More guns, a gun in every pot.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Wolfson, Michael Berry, thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.